So we finished case study of Viktor Franklin, and we start with the case study of the American diplomat. An important North American diplomat went to Franklin to pick up where he left off with the course of treatment he had started 5 years earlier in the United States. When Franklin asked him why he'd started therapy in the first place, the diplomat answered that he hated his job and his country's international policies, which he had to follow and enforce. His American psychoanalyst, whom he'd been seeing for years, insisted he make peace with his father so that his government and his job, both representations of the paternal figure, would seem less disagreeable. Franklin, however, showed him in just a few sessions that his frustration was due to the fact that he wanted to pursue a different career, and the diplomat concluded his treatment with that idea in mind. 5 years later, the former diplomat informed Franklin that he had been working during that time in a different profession and that he was happy. In Franklin's views, the man not only didn't need all those years of psychoanalysis, he also couldn't even really be considered a patient in need of therapy. He was simply someone in search of a new life purpose. As soon as he found it, his life took on a deeper meaning. It happens so many times in life that we feel from our conscious mind or from our first experiences that this is our problem. We try to become our own doctors. And yes, Indians per se are the number one Google doctors the world has ever seen. And yes, we have people following up. But what is more important at the end of the day is not whether you can analyze your life well as per you, but your behavior. Now, at the end of the day, I can figure, yaar, meri life to badi jabardast hai, mazedar, ye wo. But if at the end of the day, I am not at ease with myself. Now, dis-ease and at ease. So if I'm at ease with myself, I would be deriving joy and happiness out of the smallest of things also. So that is your true barometer. See, at the end of the day, you can fake the entire world, but you can never fake it to yourself. And you can never fake it to the Almighty. वो देख रहा है, सब देख रहा है. हम बोलते हैं नहीं जी हम तो बड़ा ये है, हम तो बड़ा वो है. No. Ask yourself one question. Is this giving me the joy I need? If yes, then yes. Be true to yourself. Have that integrity working with yourself. सारी दुनिया को हम जो मर्जी दिखाएं, बट जो हम अपने आप के साथ या अपने मिरर के साथ बात कर सकते हैं, that is the true picture. It is very easy to have a facade for the outside world where you are, in a different tandem, and inside it's altogether a different picture. Like when we were doing mirror work, everybody has two personalities, and that's a normal human being. That's you, me, everybody around. One that we want to be, and one which we actually are. So जो हम दिखा रहे हैं, which is what we want to be, the personality, और जो हम हैं, the lesser the gap. Remember, there will be a gap. जो मर्जी होए, unless you are one of those ascended masters, there is a gap. मेरे में भी गैप है, आपके में भी गैप है, सब में हल्का गैप है. But yeah, the whole issue is to reduce the gap of what is it that you're showing yourself and what is it that you truly are. And the more closer you get, the more you are at ease. फिर वो कहीं पे कोई एंजाइटी या टेंशन अपने आप को लेके नहीं होगी. It's beautifully represented, this whole concept, in the book Break Your Habits, Joe Dispenza. Break Your Own Habits, something like that. I'm forgetting the title, but yeah, it's a nice book. Case study, the suicidal mother. The mother of a boy who had died at age 11 was admitted to Franklin's clinic after she tried to kill herself and her other son. It was this other son, paralyzed since birth, who kept her from carrying out her plan. He did believe his life had a purpose, and if his mother killed them both, it would keep him from achieving his goals. The woman shared her story in a group session. To help her, Franklin asked another woman to imagine a hypothetical situation in which she lay on her deathbed, old and wealthy but childless. The woman insisted that in that case, she would have felt her life had been a failure. When the suicidal mother was asked to perform the same exercises, imagining herself on the deathbed, she looked back and realized that she had done everything in her power for her children, for both of them. She had given her paralyzed son a good life, and he had turned into a kind, reasonable, happy person. To this, she added, crying, as for myself, I can look back peacefully on my life, for I can say my life was full of meaning, and I have tried hard to live it fully. I have done my best. I have done my best for my son. My life was no failure. In this way, by imagining herself on her deathbed and looking back, the suicidal mother found the meaning, though she was not aware of it, her life already had. The book's name was Break the Habit of Being Yourself, Joe Dispenza. Now, in this case study of this mother, it's a very simple story where, she wanted to kill her son and, he's paralyzed, but the son had a thing. Your life purpose, your life meaning does not have to be a very fancy life meaning. Life का purpose बड़ा simple होता है. If you talk about basics or one of few examples, your life purpose can be to be a loving mother. That could be a life purpose, to be a loving, caring, and a nurturing mother. It does not necessarily have to be something where, it has to come into that category where it has to be publicly very accepting and, societal point of view. No, not necessary. See, whatever is your life meaning, the soul has chosen that. And that is going to give you the satisfaction and the peace of mind. अब वो peace of mind जब आप outer world में ढूंढोगे तो नहीं मिलेगा, because then that is running after the whims and fancies of the society. But yes, when you talk about life's purpose, life's true meaning, it's always internal. So that journey is towards the inner side. And it's not that fancy or whatever. It can be, depends on person to person. But yeah, it can go anyway. So being a nurturing, caring mother can be a purpose of life. And a lot of times I've also heard that, certain babies are born with some diseases from birth. It could be autism, it could be any of the congenital disorders, a hole in the heart, or anything. Now the soul is aware that this is the purpose, and it's aware that I need to take birth. So as a parent, it's said in a lot of religious texts, in a lot of books, that if these kind of kids are coming into your space, they are coming for a reason, because as a soul you choose your parents. So then that gives you one life meaning or one life purpose, is to serve him or her. It's very important to accept the decision of the Almighty, and serve the child. Case study: the grief-stricken doctor.
So basically, what they sorry to interrupt. So basically, what they're trying to say here is that she found her life's purpose when she was, when she looked back at her life from a situation where she is on her deathbed. That means she
visualized. There was an exercise.
Visualized, and she's gone old and she's about to die. And is that the time she's now being asked to look back at her life?
She is very much in her youth. She's gone for a workshop where they do a stimulation exercise where you close your eyes and imagine as if you are on your deathbed. So in that exercise, it's part of logotherapy. In that exercise, you get to realize and relive your life all over again. And then you actually come to that space and that acceptance. Yes, this is what I was meant to be. ये logotherapy के ना बड़ी detailed working है. In any other modality also, see, a lot of places is always said na कि rather than writing your eulogy, your death right, at the end, write it when you're alive, so you know what you've done.
Interesting, because she was about to kill herself and her son anyway.
She was about to, no, but she did not. Thank God.
But that was because of the son who stopped her.
Hmm.
So she was still in that thought. But then when she was asked to think in that exercise, the thought completely changed. And she started thinking in lines of that, my meaning of life is to serve my son.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. If you as a parent, if there is a child who's born with certain, diseases which are at the birth, it's a very clear thing that is something which is chosen by the soul. So as a parent, you need to accept it, that this is one of my purpose of life is to serve this human being.
Thanks.
Case study: the grief-stricken doctor. An elderly doctor, unable to overcome the deep depression into which he'd fallen after the death of his wife 2 years earlier, went to Franklin for help. Instead of giving him advice on analyzing his condition, Franklin asked him what would have happened if he had been the one who died first. The doctor, horrified, answered that it would have been terrible for his poor wife, that she would have suffered tremendously, to which Franklin responded, "You see, doctor, you have spared her all that suffering, but the price you have to pay for this is to survive and mourn her." The doctor didn't say another word. He left Franklin's office in peace after taking the therapist's hand in his own. He was able to tolerate the pain in place of his beloved wife. His life had been given a purpose. So it's very important, actually, with whatever situations or adversities happen with our life, is to see what is it that I need to learn and then accept the situation. Morita therapy. In the same decade that logotherapy came into being, a few years earlier, in fact, Shoma Morita created her own purpose-centered therapy in Japan. It proved to be effective in the treatment of neurosis, obsessive compulsive disorders, and post-traumatic stress. In addition to being a psychotherapist, Shoma Morita was a Zen Buddhist, and his therapy left a lasting spiritual mark on Japan. Many Western forms of therapy focus on controlling or modifying the patient's emotions. In the West, we tend to believe that what we think influences how we feel, which in turn influences how we act. In contrast, Morita therapy focuses on teaching parents to accept their emotions without trying to control them, since their feelings will change as a result of their actions. In addition to accepting the patient's emotions, Morita therapy seeks to create new emotions on the basis of actions. According to Morita, these emotions are learned through experience and repetition. Morita therapy is not meant to eliminate symptoms. Instead, it teaches us to accept our desires, anxieties, fears, and worries and let them go. As Morita writes in his book, Morita Therapy and the True Nature of Anxiety-Based Disorders, in feelings, it is best to be wealthy and generous. Morita explained the idea of letting go of negative feeling with the following fable. A donkey that is tied to a post by a rope will keep walking around the post in an attempt to free itself, only to become more immobilized and attached to the post. The same thing applies to people with obsessive thinking who become more trapped in their own suffering when they try to escape from their fears and discomforts. The basic principles of Morita therapy. Number one, accept your feelings. If you have obsessive thoughts, we should not try to control them or get rid of them. If we do, they become more intense. Regarding human emotions, the Zen master would say, if we try to get rid of one wave with another, we end up with an infinite sea. We don't create our feelings, they simply come to us. We have to accept them. The trick is welcoming them. Morita likened emotions to the weather. We can't predict or control them. We can only observe them. To this point, he often quoted the Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh, I think the guy who recently died, who would say, "Hello, solitude, how are you today? Come, sit with me, and I will care for you." So the first principle of four principles of Morita therapy is accept your feelings. Now, as we know, there are different feelings available. Some are positive feelings, some are negative feelings. And nearly all feelings or all emotions come to you some way or the other. Now, it's the whole issue of acceptance is not to control them. Remember, whatever you will control or whatever you will resist will persist. Because हम उसको दबाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, वो दबेगा नहीं, वो वापस अगर हल्का हमें लग भी रहा है कि हमने उसको दबा लिया, वो it will come back with a vengeance, with much stronger force. So do not suppress any feeling or emotion. Do not control any feeling or emotion. Do not resist any emotion or a feeling. all you need to do is accept. Now, in this acceptance, you need to accept what is coming with this feeling. So if it's a feeling of remorse, where probably you've lost a loved one, or there has been some tragedy, so if it is sadness, it's okay, accept that sadness. It's part of, why is it there in the emotional, in the feelings chart, or if it's there in the, why is it that emotion is there? Because that emotion exists. So you have to be, accept that emotion, and you have to accept that feeling. कि हाँ जी ठीक है, you're sad, you want to cry, it's okay. See, what happens is, जब हम किसी भी चीज को resist करते हैं ना, एक तो वो वापस बड़ी फोर्स से आएगा, like a spring. बट अगर हम एक चीज को एक्सेप्ट कर लेते हैं, वो वैसे ही डिसॉल्व होकर खत्म हो जाता है. It gets so absorbed in your entire body and aura that it will never create an effect where it can do any harm to you. Any emotion, पॉजिटिव भी नेगेटिव भी, पॉजिटिव में भी उसमें नहीं बहना है, एक्सेप्ट करना. ओके, हैप्पी, वेरी नाइस, नीड टू स्माइल, ओके, यू नीड टू लाफ इट आउट, बट एक्सेप्ट इट. चाहे वो गुड है, पॉजिटिव है, चाहे वो बैड है, नेगेटिव है. एक्सेप्टेंस इज नॉट कि गुड को एक्सेप्ट कर लो, बैड को नहीं करना, या बैड को एक्सेप्ट कर लो, गुड को रहने दो. नो, एक्सेप्ट योर फीलिंग्स. वो गुड है, हैप्पी है, जॉयफुल है, इंथ्यूजियाज्म वाली है, ग्रैटिट्यूड वाली है, लव वाली है, कि फेयर वाली है, एंजाइटी वाली है, सैडनेस की है, एनीथिंग, जस्ट एक्सेप्ट. Do what you should be doing. We shouldn't focus on eliminating symptoms, because recovery will come on its own. We should focus instead on the present moment. And if we are suffering, on accepting that suffering. Above all, we should avoid intellectualizing the situation. The therapist's mission is to develop the patient's character so he or she can face any situation, and character is grounded in the things we do. Morita therapy does not offer its patients explanations, but rather allows them to learn from their actions and activities. It doesn't tell you how to meditate or how to keep a diary the way Western therapies do. It is up to the patient to make discoveries through experience. So yeah, at the end of the day, whatever is that is coming in your space, any event, any emotion, any feeling is coming for a lesson. So rather than, focusing on eliminating it, when you accept it, you will get to know what is it that you are required to learn from this situation, event, or emotion or feeling, and get your focus right कि मुझे क्या करना है. So that aware, when these things come to your awareness and you approach it from a point of being consciously aware and evaluating everything that is happening, so then these things don't affect you so much, because they are coming to your awareness. And one very interesting thing, not from the book per se, but anything that comes in your awareness comes to teach you something. अगर आपने वो lesson learn कर लिया, that thing will never repeat. But yeah, if that same thing is coming in your awareness, in your space again and again, question yourself, what is it that I had to learn? And once that wisdom is sought by the soul, that thing will never repeat. वो आती इसलिए to teach something, और जब हमने वो समझ लिया वो किस लिए आ रही है, and the wisdom is clear, chances are 99% it will never repeat. Discover your life's purpose. We can't control our emotions, but we can take charge of our actions every day. This is why we should have a clear sense of our purpose and always keep Morita's mantra in mind, what do we need to be doing right now? What action should we be taking? The key to achieving this is having dared to look inside yourself to find your Ikigai. So, discovering your life's purpose is the third basic principle. And there are 4 phases of the Morita therapy. The 4 phases of Morita therapy. Morita's original treatment, which lasts 15 to 21 days, consists of the following stages. Now, the first stage is isolation and rest. From 5 to 7 days, during the first week of treatment, the patient rests in a room without any external stimuli, no television, books, family, friends, or speaking. All the patient has in his thoughts, he lies down for most of the day and visited regularly by the therapist, who tries to avoid interacting with him as much as possible. The therapist simply advises the patient to continue observing the rise and fall of his emotion as he lies there. When the patient gets bored and wants to start doing things again, he's ready to move on to the next stage of the therapy. Stage 2 is a light occupational therapy, 5 to 7 days. In this stage, the patient performs repetitive tasks in silence. One of these is keeping a diary about his thoughts and feelings. The patient goes outside after a week of being shut in, takes walks in nature, and does breathing exercise. He also starts doing simple activities such as gardening, drawing, or painting. During this stage, the patient is still not allowed to talk to anyone except the therapist. Stage 3, occupational therapy, 5 to 7 days. In this stage, the patient performs tasks that require physical movement. Dr. Morita liked to take his patients to the mountains to chop wood. In addition to physical tasks, the patient is also immersed in other activities such as writing, painting, or making ceramics. The patient can speak with others at this stage, but only about the tasks at hand. Stage 4 is the return to the social life and the real world. The patient leaves the hospital and is reintroduced to social life, but maintains the practices of meditation and occupational therapy developed during treatment. The idea is to re-enter society as a new person with a sense of purpose without being controlled by social or emotional pressures. Now, on a very honest feedback, I have not practiced Morita therapy, but yeah, there are a lot of documentaries available on YouTube if you go. There are a few on Netflix as well. So, they have these patients who share their experience. So there are secret cameras in their lodging sites, camps where they are staying. So they record their entire, journey. I remember about, not exactly whether that documentary was on Morita therapy, but there was a documentary on Netflix about this guy who goes to some shamanic healers in Brazil. And
He's
there,
going through depression, na Arjun, that guy who's going through depression and was trying to commit suicide, and then he goes to a shamanic healer in America, and then he goes through a rigorous
very
thing,
young guy.
which is first turns out to be dangerous also. Some particular people he meets, and then he later on reaches the right person who treats him, heals him.
And that guy is
Yeah,
thrown
it's
out of
on
the village
Netflix.
also at times at the end.
Yes, it's on
What's the name of the
Netflix.
series on Netflix?
It's called The Last Shaman or
Shaman, the
Shaman.
last shaman. She's right.
The
Yeah.
Last Shaman.
So that's about shamanic healing. But yeah,
Yeah.
Morita therapy also it's very, very common in Japan, because they have those villages. So it's not in, you won't find in big towns like Tokyo that Morita therapy is being done. But yeah, in the ancient villages where people still believe in those ancient ways of being and healing, there these therapies are definitely practiced. I have not come across as such a clear example of a Morita therapy in whatever I've seen, but I'm sure that yes, definitely, because see, in this entire 21 days, you are cut off from the world. Aapke 5 sensories, your eyes, your nose, your smell, your taste, your audible hearing, and your touch. Those are 5 inputs to your body. इन 5 सेंसरी इनपुट से सारा ब्रेन चलता है. जब एक्सटर्नल में आप किसी को सुन नहीं रहे हो, यू आर इन नेचर, whatever is there, you are just eating. That's bare minimum. There's no exotic food, nothing available. What you're smelling is normal nature, and what you're seeing, there's generally no human being, just your, other than your therapist, and you're only talking to him. So imagine what is going on in your mind. So for here, if I talk about these 4 phases, all I can do is just think and imagine. But yeah, hopefully, if there it's meant to be, ho sakta hai, might experience it. But yeah, on a practical sense, I have not experienced, but I've seen a few videos. But it makes sense, because your all 5 senses, if they are not, why now the important question is, 5 senses na hame distract karte hain. Why is it said that in meditation, keep your eyes closed? मेडिटेशन में आपके 4 सेंसेस बिल्कुल जीरो होते हैं. You can't see anything with your actual eyes, but you can visualize with your brain. You can't smell anything unless or until there is something around. You are not eating anything. All you are hearing is the sound and whatever is being played, and you cannot touch anything. So जब हम अपने senses को desensitize करते हैं, that is where we get with the inner experience. So if we talk about from that perspective, yes, this makes this 21 days experience makes a lot of sense, because there is no touch with the outside world. So you are able to be with yourself and at ease with yourself. Remember, if you are at ease with yourself first, then only you can be at ease with others. It is never the other way, that I am at ease with others, but I'm not at ease with myself. No, you need to be first at ease with yourself. Because if you're not at ease with yourself, chances are you're faking the ease with others. So accepting yourself the way you are and being at ease with yourself is number 1 criteria for being truly happy, deep down from the soul.
I believe in India there are some places. I believe in Maharashtra,
I've been to one.
Panchgani, and one in Gujarat, isn't it?
I've been to one. It was I went there for 12 days. I did the similar thing.
Yeah, they do.
We were not allowed to talk. Basic boiled food. We would have like long meditation sessions, gardening. I did it for 12 days. It was
You're
above
not allowed
Uttar
the phone also, na?
No
Mahima?
phone, no gadgets, no gadgets.
There are all these Vana, Prastha, Ashrams and all, they all like that only.
This was Shivananda Ashram. It was above Uttar Kashi, like 6 hours above, like near Gangotri.
Acha.
Beautiful experience.
Yeah.
बहुत सुंदर था.
Total disconnect from the outside.
And there
Totally
are many. ये तो अभी
There are.
आप एक बोल रहे हो, they are, especially in these religious areas like Rishikesh and all these places, na, Varanasi and all, there will be loads and loads of them. And I'm not talking about those fancy ones like Hum Jindal Ja Rahe and everything. Those are for particular healing, because that's ailment based healing. They will calculate your prakriti, whether you're a Vata, Pitta or a Kapha, and then work accordingly. That's a different concept. So those are working on your prakriti.
Mount Abu में है ना?
Ayurvedic concept.
आसपास. Mount Abu में है ना? यहाँ पे स्वाति थी, क्या नाम था?
Could be, there'll be many.
Very nice. वहाँ पे भी gadgets वगैरह, nothing is
The
allowed.
East
South.
in itself is
Manthan,
known for all
Manthan.
these. So Japan हो गया या Southeast Asia हो गया, India हो गया, they were all known and famous for all these therapies. Nikan meditation. Morita was a great Zen master of the Nikan introspective meditation. Much of his therapy draws on his knowledge and mastery of this school, which centers on three questions the individual must ask him or herself. What have I received from person X? What have I given to person X? And what problems have I caused person X? Through these reflections, we stop identifying others as the cause of our problems and deepen our own sense of responsibility. As Morita said, if you are angry and want to fight, think about it for 3 days before coming to blows. After 3 days, the intense desire to fight will pass on its own. And now, Ikigai. Logotherapy and Morita therapy are both grounded in a personal, unique experience that you can access without therapists or spiritual retreats. The mission of finding your Ikigai, your existential fuel. Once you find it, it is only a matter of having the courage and making the effort to stay on the right path. In the following chapters, we'll take a look at the basic tools you'll need to get moving along that path. Finding flow in the tasks you've chosen to do, eating in a balanced and mindful way, doing low intensity exercises, and learning not to give in when difficulties arise. In order to do this, you have to accept that the world, like the people who live in it, is imperfect, but that is still full of opportunities for growth and achievement. Are you ready to throw yourself into your passion as if it were the most important thing in your world? We'll stop the reading here.